I think metal, I would assume, because I'm obviously very metal. I think the idea, these tattoos are fake.
Those are...
These are from a Halloween costume.
Are they
I
really?
couldn't get them off.
They almost look like lesions. I thought that you were...
Lesions?
Yeah, these ones on the side.
Oh, cool. They're open sores. That's what everyone at the gym was looking at. How real does this thing look?
That does look real. I thought...
Right?
I honestly thought you were a tattooed human.
We could talk about that, because my cool factor has exponentially grown since I put these on, and I just feel cooler.
Maybe it's time to make it a real deal.
Maybe it's time to make my mom upset. I think that metal is almost a decision you make. Like something happens, you're like, that's metal, because it's cool feeling. If you come out of it feeling awesome, then you can deem it metal. If you come out of it feeling shitty, it's not metal. Like Coach is not metal, but watching something exploding something in midair with like a shotgun, that's metal because you did it and it's cool.
Yeah. Or anything going wrong, I think, is metal. Or just it's brutal. I don't know. I in my mind, I see a I see a separation between metal and brutality. Brutality is horrible. Metal is cool.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Iron Maiden, their album covers are metal.
Yes.
Getting a paper cut is brutal.
Right. Getting a paper cut and then deliberately pouring lemon juice into it just to see if you can withstand it. That's metal.
That is metal.
See? So easy, this tutorial.
Yeah, see?
Kids.
You get it now? Now you can all write for the show.
Entitlement, I think, breeds ignorance and stupidity. And you get to a certain place, and we were talking about how everyone just like does stuff for you. I always want to like take people and shake them and be like, look, you were a fucking drug addict that hit it big on like a TV show. And now you've got like people doing everything for you, but lest we forget where you were literally 6 months ago, and now you can't answer your phone. To me, that entitlement. Does that make sense?
It
know
sounds
people
to me,
like this.
yeah, but it sounds to me like you're trying to get in touch with some asshole, and they're not doing a good job getting back in touch with you.
It's also an LA thing I've noticed. And I've noticed this with men in particular. The older they get, the more it's okay to be mentally checked out of a process.
Go on.
Okay, so like if you ever dealt with like an executive or someone, and yes, of course it has to do with how important they deem you to be, but even like friends or anything, or just people within your art world, it takes so little to, and I'm not speaking about like a certain thing that happened this morning or anything, but like it takes so little to respond to a text, and someone not responding to you, it's capable of making you feel so monumentally shitty about yourself. Because what someone is basically saying is, you don't count, your time doesn't matter, me jerking off and being alone is more important than responding to you.
Sometimes jerking, I mean, you have to, I mean, there's a lot of important, I mean, that really does a lot mentally for a person. And, sometimes you don't want to talk to that person unless they've jacked off first.
Are you a good texter? That's hilarious. I need to jerk off first.
Seriously, you're going to get a rageful, irritable person. Give me 5, 15, 25.
Take your 5, take your 30. Take an hour if you are really into tantric jerking off. But I've definitely, you ever like run into someone, you're like, hey, I texted you. They're like, oh, I didn't see it.
By the way, when you said tantric jerking off, I locked eyes with 3 of the guys in the room, and everyone kind of like, we're like, yeah, that kind of exists.
But are you a good texter? And what's your, because that's a pet
I am a good texter. Honestly, I really only communicate with my small group of friends, and I do business on a very, very, very. I either talk straight to the network head, or I talk straight to. I don't involve people that don't need to be involved.
We have the luxury because you created a show and it's on.
Yeah.
And so you're not trying to get a show on the air, but
right. But I'm also in development on new stuff, and I feel the same way that small groups of people, where I've got my mind made up of what the show is and what it needs to be and what I'm excited about. I don't need that many people. I don't need to be in communication with that many people for that stuff to happen, because it's all on me. As comics, as writers, it is our job to show up with our project just ready to go.
I guess, so you're touching on that. You're saying show up, and George Carlin was at 90% of show business is just showing up.
Right, I think that may be Woody Allen. I'm not sure.
Is it Woody Allen? Well, you can totally correct me. It's
and
okay.
I think it may have been 80%. But it's all right. I'm not joking, but I think...
No, Woody Allen, 80%.
But I agree.
The sentiment remains. Numbers are hard. The sentiment remains. Right. You take someone like, this is a bad example because he's dead, but whatever. Someone like Chris Farley, who is a fucking genius.
Right.
Or like even like an Artie Lang who struggled with, drug addiction and abuse and all this stuff. you have people in your life that are pushing for you a lot. Like very few artists have this where like at a level before you're finished, there's people pushing you to like get you to set on time. We love you, you know, like, and I think so many people love to pretend like someone just pushed them into fame and they didn't work super hard for it. And now that they have it, they're like, oh, maybe I'll be on time, maybe I won't. And I think in LA we make it like it's this archetype where it's cool to not be responsible for anything because you already made it.
But I don't think that really happens. I really think that people come to this city and they're entitled as well. They think, well, I'm a comic. I've got really good 5 to 7 minutes of solid comedy and I can perform and make people laugh. But it doesn't mean that you're going to get anything because that what you're going to get is what you already have. And if you want something else, like a TV show or some kind of a thing or work or to act, you have to arrive with a project. You have to just show up. You have to set foot in a place being ready to go. And you have to, no one's going to give you a TV show. You have to prove that you've got the goods to have. You have to write it. You have to do it all.
You really do. I'm going through this process right now. And what I think is weird is there are so many examples of, there's so many things you're touching on right now. People think, especially non-comics, like I'm an actor, but I'll just do 5 minutes of jokes about my tits and my pussy. And hopefully that will get me noticed. And in some cases it does. In some cases, if you're a good-looking guy and you can do 5 to 7 minutes that you've really polished, like that's all you need. Because there are plenty of people that do stand-up that are terrible, but you got a show, and now it's fine. But you do really have to, if you have an actual vision and a goal, people think that, oh, once I get an agent, once I get a manager, we just go. The people that are actually on TV, that actually make movies, it went through so many iterations of the art that you're actually seeing in order to get to that point. You have to show up ready to play. It isn't, I think a lot of people do think, I'll just come here and I'll play the game and I can just show up without anything to say for myself and that'll be okay because my face is pretty. Or hot.
Some people, though, if you're really good looking, you do get a lot of stuff. In their defense, like you can really show up with nothing and just be really someone you just like, wow, that's a person I would look at for an hour and a half in a movie. Right.
And I guess it's like what, I mean, I guess my experience is mostly with comedy.
Maybe what you're referring to is it's funny because coming to this town, you see people that get really upset when someone else is successful. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed that? That's the thing that happens. And those people are usually talented, but they don't realize that once they get an agent and a manager, that the agent manager, like you have them and they go, so what are you doing? Like, what are you doing aside from just proving that you're a good stand-up? Like how do you, unless that's what you want to do, if you just want to be a fantastic, like if you just simply want to be the world's best stand-up, then keep doing what you're doing. But if you want something else, like TV, which seems to be the goal for lots of people, you still have to, even though you've got the agent and manager, they're going to ask you to come up with ideas to pitch.
That's the rub. So it's a catch-22 because I think a lot of people don't get this. Like I would meet comics who are just starting out, they're like, I need to get a manager. I'm like, what will they manage? An agent can submit you to stuff. I guess your manager can. What are they managing? Your 3-minute bit on bicycles? Like, I guess you need to have, and it's also on you to get out there every night and be like, here, I've come up with a show. I've come up with a pitch. It isn't just because you get an agent or a manager that you just go. I have both, and I can't seem to go. So I think it's a misconception that a lot of comics have. Also, if you do just want to be, I'm shocked at the amount of comics who, if you're just starting, and look, I didn't invent stand-up comedy. I'm not the greatest stand-up in the world. The amount of comics who at a certain level just remain mediocre and have no drive to fix a joke. And it's like, really, you're getting up there, you're doing a GPS joke about what if your GPS sounded like your ex-girlfriend? Like, really? Still? And this is funny territory to you?
I have that joke.
You probably started that joke.
I'm kidding, I don't have that joke.
But the amount of people who just
I'm going to start doing it. Fuck, man, that's a good joke.
We should do, let's talk about pet peeves for bits. I don't know how much
you know what's funny about, okay, just before we do that, I think it's the truth is that we're all alone in whatever it is that we're doing entertainment-wise. It's true, unless you are in a sketch troupe and you're working together. But comics are the
totally
ultimate lone cowboy, cow person. And but because it's funny, I remember being confused and starting out and working on bits and just kind of not, and just if a bit works or it doesn't work, it's up to you to kind of reckon with it. Mm-hmm. And if you have something that's starting out pretty good, but you kind of, it fizzles out towards the end, it kind of doesn't. I forgot that it's really important to every once in a while check in with other human beings that are similar, to go have coffee and go, hey, listen, I'll buy you a coffee if we can talk about 3 or 4 of my jokes. And you just get them out there and you just talk with your comedy friends.
But here's the thing. You can have people that you're friends with in comedy, but you don't necessarily respect their jokes as much. I think it's weird. Stand-up comedy is one of the only, I would say it's the only one because this is what I do, where regular people feel entitled to tell you how to do your job. Like I would never go up to a doctor and be like, your incisions need to be a little wider. And it's people think because everyone wants to be a rock star, an athlete, or a stand-up, or like an actor. Like everyone wants. So they see you doing. They're like, "Well, I was funny in high school. You know what you should do?" And they say it to you. And part of being a stand-up and being smarter than some people at times is withstanding the stupidity-coded arrows that are being fired at you.
You know what I usually do? I just put my hand on their shoulder and I go, you know what you should do? You should really go up on stage and really, really find out how it really feels to bomb in front of a room of your peers. That's what I recommend. You would
say that?
Seriously.
You would touch them?
It's a domination thing.
Do it now. Let's see if it feels.
Yeah. You feel the heavy arm.
You've got a meaty arm.
Yeah, I've got a big arm.
And like a stare.
And
then
camo hat. Fucking stare.
It's very Minuteman.
Yeah, but that's my that's my response to someone who is kind of, there's class clown funny who's just obnoxious, and then there's the quiet writer who's like, oh, this is so horrible and hacky. Why would this person keep saying loud things that are just like they're lines from movies that exist. This is from Toy Story 2 or something. But yeah, I'll say that to people usually. Plus, I do think in life it really is important to really eat shit every once in a while. To truly just...
Oh, that's what I thought you were saying? Okay.
No, to really bomb. To miserably fail in front of everyone. It's really important to always know that... And that's how I don't think you ever become a person that's entitled. Is to really
a dose of humility.
Well, yeah. It happens to me every once in a while. I hadn't been doing stand-up for a long time, and I maybe like 2.5, almost 3 years ago, went on stage and did like 25 minutes in Brooklyn to a room of like 250 people who had all paid 25 plus for tickets and all that stuff. And I just ate shit to dead silence.
Wow.
And I should have done 5 minutes of old jokes, but what I was doing was exploring and thought, this is what I have to do right now. It was a bomb that was so terrible that, when everyone averts their eyes when you're walking away. And people I was just hanging out outside. It was kind of like chilly weather in Brooklyn. And somebody walked up having a smoke, and they're like rolling their eyes.
Wow.
Like, and they didn't want to stand next to me.
Like you're a leper. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, fuck, yes. But you know what? Those are the most important times of your life. It's happened to me because, I went to music school first, and that's how I got...
Where'd you go to music school?
I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston.
I knew you were going to say it because I went to Emerson, and I lived on Symphony, which was down the street.
I know where that is.
So I was like,
oh, you did?
Friends.
All right.
I did.
I took classes at Emerson, too. Yeah, I took like comedy writing classes and stuff like that. I did.
It's funny that they offer that.
But when I was a kid, I thought I didn't understand what an audience really was, and I entered into a guitar competition when I was 14 years old. And I ate shit so hard. There was no way in my mind that I could dream that shit could get this bad. There's like, it could not have. It was so. I had no idea what I'd gotten myself into. I was on stage in a bar. I was 14 years old, like smoke-filled bar in shitty Salinas, California, and I was one of like 15 guitarists, and they made us wait out in the cold. My guitar was out of tune. They introduced me. And I made the worst sounds at the loudest volume that I'd ever played, and just time stopped, and I just noticed everything that was horrible about this, and it stayed with me. But it was the most important night of my life
because it can't get worse than that.
Well, because I went home and I flipped my guitar case open, and I looked at my fat little shitty hands, and I looked at the guitar, and I thought, you know what? No, I said, what happened out there, guys? What happened? What the fuck happened to us out there? Because that's the most humiliating thing. I've been telling all these people in high school that I play guitar, and they're like, yo, really? I'm like, yeah, I can play Guns N' Roses. And like they're like, oh, you can? And I was like, yeah, and I'm actually getting pretty good. And I was, but the nerves fucking killed me. And so everyone, looked at me and was like, I thought you said you could play guitar, dude. And I had no control over my limbs at that point. The lactic acid had built up, and I was white knuckling the instrument like fucking. I was ready to throw my guitar like John McEnroe, at the end of that thing. It was horrible. It was the worst thing. And I sat there and I had this moment with my hands and my fat hands on the guitar and just shaking my head and going, this cannot happen again.
Right.
Now I can fucking quit this thing that has caused me more pain and move on with my life and just become a regular asshole. Or I can say, fuck it. I'm going to practice twice as hard as I've ever practiced in my life and do this again.
Sure.
And not experience that.
Yeah.
So I chose the latter path because I was too humiliated. There's no way. But having that challenge in front of me, that humiliation, it humbled me and it made me work way harder. And bombing with stand-up, same thing.
Sure.